I've spoken about guest characters in fighting games in a few different videos, and no matter how much time passes, it feels like more pop up in any franchise, opening up the door for even more video discussions. But while I wait for a list's worth of guests that came out since my last video on them, I want to do a side mission with an under-the-radar aspect of fighting game guests, the stages. Sometimes when we get a guest, they bring an area reminiscent of their home series. It could be a full-on recreation, or a new location that references an area from their series pretty closely. So for this video, I want to look at some of the coolest stages that accompanied fighting game guest characters. As with the nature of guest characters, it can be fitting or they can seem wildly out of place. I'm just ranking them on how much they make me say, whoa, cool. Now let's step into the top 10 fighting game guest character stages. Number 10, Abandoned Temple in Tekken 7. This stage represents Akuma's Tekken 7 guest appearance by referencing his Street Fighter stages. I like the idea behind this one. It's not a direct copy of a Street Fighter stage, but you can see what they were cooking. It's mostly based on Akuma's stage in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Koryu Street. If you look at the default appearance of the Tekken stage before you move around, the way the moon is displayed in the background of the stage, where it's surrounded by statues and the cave entrance in the foreground, is near identical to the layout of the trees and rocks in front of the Street Fighter stage. I think it's a very clever recreation that references the major beats of the original stage, while still bringing in new elements like the statues or remnants of this old temple, such as the fence. It also implies that no matter where Akuma shows up, he somehow finds an abandoned living space in the form of a temple and/or cave. Just look at his other stages in Street Fighter. He has Oni Fang Cave in Street Fighter Alpha, Old Temple for his secret boss fights in Street Fighter 4, the Temple of Ascension in Street Fighter 5, and Enma's Hollow in Street Fighter 6. In fact, I can see some allusions to Oni Fang Cave and Old Temple in the Tekken stage, with there being a cave off to the side, and the statues on the stage look strikingly similar to the ones in Street Fighter 4. So overall, the Tekken stage feels like an amalgamation of all of Akuma's stages that we knew about at Tekken 7's release, making it a nice homage to Akuma that probably made him feel all warm and fuzzy. Number 9, City Ruins Eternal Apocalypse in Soul Calibur 6. Soul Calibur in general has a lot of guest character stages, so expect hearing about them a few times on this list. This stage is a representation for 2B from Nier Automata, or Automata as I like to pronounce it, when she was a guest in Soul Calibur 6, who I discussed on my questionable guest character list. Basically, Nier takes place in a year with 5 digits and a hot robot lady protagonist, while Soul Calibur is a game in medieval times, so they naturally feel like a weird set of games to pair up, but 2B's weapon-based gameplay felt good for Soul Calibur, and likewise, City Ruins as a stage feels like it meshes well with Soul Calibur. I haven't played much of Nier Automata, so I'm just going off of vibes here, but the withered buildings with vegetation all around feel like something we would see in a Soul Calibur environment. There's plenty of abandoned temples in Soul Calibur, so I would almost just think this is a standard stage without any context if it wasn't for all the drones flying around or the creepy red girls appearing behind each fighter at the start of the round. The red girls are a nice touch since they're supposed to be the manipulators of the war in Nier Automata, so it's like they're watching over the characters to make sure their fighting goes as planned. This is just an appealing stage to look at overall, and if you're like me, as someone who hasn't completed the Game of Origin, it will definitely make you appreciate the series' aesthetics.
Cannot die. I made someone a promise.
Number 8, Replica Kaer Morn in Soul Calibur 6. Back-to-back Soul Calibur 6 representation, with Geralt, the protagonist of the Witcher series, being a guest on the base roster of Soul Calibur 6. This stage was also in the base game. It's based on the school from The Witcher where characters learn the magical skills to become Witchers, but that being said, the replica in the stage's name is related to why it's not just ripped right out of the games. The Soul Calibur lore reason is Geralt was essentially transferred to this universe traverse through an astral rift, so the setting of the Witcher series might not even be in the Soul Calibur world. As a result, from the astral chaos, it reads Geralt's memories and creates a replica of a familiar location for him. But even the lore uses words like perhaps, so it's not even sure. It just wants to say, hey, it looks like the thing, but it isn't the thing while still kinda being the thing. Regardless, it's a beautiful stage. The old castle walls fit the aforementioned vibe of a Soul Calibur stage that has withered construction, and if you pan out further, you can see all the mountains and trees in the distance. Without any context that this is a guest stage, it fits right in with the series without having to stretch the imagination, so whether this stage is real or all in Geralt's head, it provides some awesome scenery for a sword fight.
Never seen such equipment before. Need to investigate.
Number 7, Midgar in Super Smash Bros. So with my more recent guest character videos, I started excluding Super Smash Bros. Because as of Smash Bros. Ultimate, third-party characters from all over the video game world were appearing consistently. It doesn't matter how connected they were with Nintendo previously, so I didn't consider them guests anymore. I just viewed Smash Bros. As the big crossover where everyone is invited. But for Brawl and Smash on the Wii U, it was much more rare for third-party characters to appear, so I considered all non-Nintendo characters to be guests prior to like 2019. Long story short, I initially considered Cloud from Final Fantasy VII to be a guest when he joined the Smash Bros. Wii U roster as DLC back in 2015, meaning I also considered the stage he brought along, Midgar, as a guest stage, and it's just fantastic. So I'm using my old Smash Bros. Guest character rules so I can talk about the stage on this list. We never play with stage hazards on, but I absolutely love the simple yet visually stunning ways they implemented the hazards, being the reason I love watching everything go on in Midgar. It's got the standard few platforms of a Smash Bros. Stage and is overall a pretty normal battlefield, but every so often, some magical crystals called materia appear that let you summon creatures to affect the stage. And with the lighting of the stage and the way their bodies astral project in the background, along with the effects of their magical abilities overtaking the screen just to disrupt the fight, add an extra epic factor to it. The powers look horribly devastating because they are, but some of them are ultimately just mildly inconvenient. The true spectacle is during the materia attack. Like when Ramu appears, there's lightning everywhere, but then he just electrifies the platforms, and I'm like, oh, that's anticlimactic. They do damage if you land on them now, but still, the startup was much cooler. As for the other summons, you got Ifrit, who does this cool-ass stream of fire to the side of the stage and then knocks it diagonally. You would think fire would burn it instead of tilt it, but I guess that's fine too. Odin slashes the platform in half where both sides go in different directions, and it looks like one of those oddly satisfying videos with how clean that cut is, and you see the heated metal cool off. And my favorite is Leviathan, who floods the stage with a tidal wave, and it just looks awesome. The flooding on the stage looks so natural here, and if you've sustained enough damage, the water turns into an instant ring out. Finally, there's Bahamut, who uses Terraflame to blast part of the stage to deal massive damage if you walk into it. I love the anticipation of this attack, since it starts off in the distance and quickly creeps in until it reaches the fight. All of these combine to make Midgar a beautiful stage for both the city view and the giant dudes who could kill you if they wanted. Number 6, Last Day on Earth in Tekken 7. For Tekken 7's strangest guest choice, we have Negan from The Walking Dead, specifically the TV version. I went over this appearance on my questionable guest character list, where in short, I said he doesn't fit by any logical conclusion, but his playstyle feels very Tekken, so you know what, it was fun. However, I did not discuss the stage that came alongside him. Without context, yeah, this looks like a Tekken stage. There's always random settings for stages in the series, like the Tomato Festival in Spain, or inside a casino, or the beach, so what seemed like a campground at the time was fine. Though this is not a campground at all. This stage actually is a recreation of a scene from the show, which I haven't seen that deep into, so I can't provide context. However, my mom has watched the whole series and likes Negan, so I'll let her explain right now what this stage is referencing.
As a Walking Dead fan, I get chills when I see the stage. stage for this game. A dark, sinister campground in the forest, the perfect setting for a slaughter. It looks exactly like the background in the terrifying finale episode in Season 6, where we first meet Negan and his barbed-wired bat Lucille. I hadn't read the comics, but when I saw Negan, I knew the dead universe had changed forever. He exuded pure evil and was surrounded by it. The kind that you see in real life and not just sci-fi, which made it even scarier. After Negan's posse, the Saviors, captured Rick and the gang, you could almost smell the upcoming death in the air. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo will never have the same meaning for me again. I stewed for months hoping my favorite character Glenn wasn't the chosen one, but my fears came true in the first episode of Season 7 with his gruesome murder. Negan killed Abraham first, which honestly I didn't mind because I never really cared for his character, but I never forgave Negan for Glenn's death, even though he makes a great villain and guest character in this game.
So overall, this is a pretty dark stage with context, but Tekken is a series with devil powers and other murderous creatures, so I think we've seen worse.
Oh my goodness! You win. Buddy. You still there?
Number 5, Chamber of the Flame in Mortal Kombat 2011, aka Mortal Kombat 9. This was the first time a guest character got their own stage in a Mortal Kombat game, and it was their first playable guest character ever, Kratos from the original God of War trilogy. The third God of War game came out a year prior to Mortal Kombat 9's release, so Sony was putting Kratos in anything they could for the latter half of the PlayStation 3's life. Kratos' appearance in Mortal Kombat 9 was well executed, both in terms of look and playstyle, utilizing his weapons in a very Mortal Kombat special move style. Since this was Mortal Kombat's first guest, and possibly because of a contract with Sony, they rolled out the red carpet and gave him a stage, Chamber of the Flame. It was based on a stage in God of War 3, once again probably because it was so recent at the time, and it looked pretty nice in this game. The titular Flame of Olympus is in the background, and it reminds me of the pit stage with its skinny platform surrounded by a long fall down. However, that's involved with the real gimmick of this stage. You can perform stage fatalities here, but unlike every other stage fatality where you just get the same animation each time, this one lets you choose one of 3 death traps to throw your opponent into. You grab them and you choose a button to bring out the trap. There's an opening and closing spears trap that closes right on the opponent to keep them intact, but they fall to pieces once the spears open again. Then there's the fire one that turns them to bone and then to ash, and finally, the Arm Cruncher, which has a few crunchers that close at different times, so it gets the opponent's lower half, then middle, and finally, the head. The latter fatality seemed to be the most popular one when I played online, but I've come to really like the fire one since I like the slowdown effect on the skeleton going Finally, this stage has random shaking for effect. I believe it's supposed to represent the arena crumbling and one of the Titans, Gaia, approaching, since she appears in a crack that opens up in the corner as the match progresses. The shaking never bothered me, but I know some people who outright banned this stage since the shaking was too distracting, which I get. For fun it's fine, but it would have been nice if you could turn off the shaking. Also, when Gaia peeks in at the end, my friends and I used to pretend that she's saying silly things like, "Hi Kratos, how's it going today?" Anyway, cool stage, I like it. Play Mortal Kombat 9 if you can ever get your hands on it.
Kratos wins.
Number 4, Girasol Isle in Soul Calibur 6. Another rep from this game. This one is for the guest from another weapon-based fighting game, Haomaru of Samurai Showdown. I went over his guest appearance in my guest character list, but being a samurai, he fit right into this game. And likewise, his stage feels right at home in Soul Calibur. Girasol Isle was his home stage in a few Samurai Showdown games, with the nighttime version of it being the home for another character in the game, Ukyo. With it being an island, you have a nice beach setting with the waves crashing in and those shrines, mountains, and rock formations in the distance. The animation in the older games is beautiful for the water, it's hard to improve on it. Soul Calibur essentially brought it into 3D, where you have a better perspective on the overall size of the island now that we have a third dimension to walk on. It's an excellent recreation, and with the time of day changing each round, you get different versions of the island referenced. The step beyond the developers took, though, is they brought in the Samurai Showdown announcer whenever you're on this stage. The Soul Calibur announcer is absent for this arena, and he's replaced by Hiroshi Naka, the announcer for the 2019 Samurai Showdown reboot.
イロハ VS 四季いざ尋常に一本目勝負巌流島羊の国いざ尋常に勝負
He does the intro for the stage and says when someone gets KO'd, and for extra authenticity, the Kuroko from Samurai Showdown, being the judge who officiates the match, appears at the beginning of the round for a second to say the round has commenced. He then teleports away, but the fact that they included this detail amuses me. I love the finality in the Samurai Showdown announcer's voice too. It makes it feel like you just won after fighting for your life, making it my favorite part of winning on this stage.
I won't settle for anything less than #1!
Number 3, the Pow Pow Cafe in Street Fighter 6. The Pow Pow Cafe is one of those locations that's legendary in its series of origin, Fatal Fury, but I feel it doesn't get recognition outside of the SNK fan base, or even by SNK themselves for a while. It was in most of the Fatal Fury games back to back, but once the King of Fighters was the main SNK fighting game, it basically disappeared until the later games, where SNK had a turnaround and was like, hey wait, this place is awesome, put it in everything, and then every King of Fighters from the 2010s onwards had it in there. In Universe, the restaurants are owned by original roster member Richard Meyer, who retired from fighting to focus on the culinary business, and it's a success with multiple locations featuring Brazilian cuisine. For being so prolific in the Fatal Fury series, when the most famous Fatal Fury characters, Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui, made their way into Street Fighter 6 as guests, Capcom paid tribute by making Pow Pow Cafe the official location for the SNK characters. In the story, it is yet another branch of the chain, so it's a completely new location established in Street Fighter's Metro City. It features many attributes of other Pow Pow locations: bright neon lights, fancy floor tiles, an open space for fighting, patrons sitting at tables cheering on, and loads of references. You have members of the Mad Gear Gang from Final Fight performing live music on stage, and don't worry Poison fans, that's just Roxy, so Poison still has hope that she'll be DLC. And of course, some more SNK characters make cameos here, also the plate of hot dogs that Terry likes to scarf down. The most famous Fatal Fury characters are hanging out here, being Blue Mary, Joe Higurashi, and Andy Bogard, the latter of which is who Mai is in love with, but he just kinda is not into commitment, which is his choice, but come on man, it's Mai Shiranui, what are you doing? Speaking of that, Andy makes a cameo in the World Tour story mode of Mai, where he just misses seeing her, I guess by accident, another point against Andy. Expectedly, all these big story moments of Terry and Mai take place at Pow Pow Cafe once you meet them, being Terry's overall home base once you get him as a mentor. Mai has a different stage for her mentorship, so you'll be coming back here a lot if you like to see Terry, or if you're just digging the atmosphere.
You're good. I'll give you that.
Number 2, Star Destroyer Docking Bay in Soul Calibur 4. Soul Calibur 4 had Star Wars guest characters: Darth Vader on the PlayStation 3 version, Yoda on the Xbox 360, and you could download the missing guest in the opposite versions, along with the video game exclusive Star Wars character, Star Killer. As for the stage released with them, it's a pure Star Wars reference. You see the imagery and it screams Star Wars. The architecture, atmosphere, and ships all represent the Star Wars art style perfectly. It's not technically a specific location from the series, so it's just described as a hangar bay of an unknown Imperial Star Destroyer. But as I said, you know which series you're in when you see all this. Plus, you still see some TIE fighters and X-Wings fly around in the background sometimes, and planets pass by, including the Death Star. There are 3 versions of this stage, but I only have the default Laser Gates version since the other 2 you only get with the DLC, which is no longer available for Soul Calibur 4. But the real reason I put this stage so high on the list is it looks hilariously out of place when the non-Star Wars characters are on it. We're in a very recognizable sci-fi outer space environment, and we have these medieval sword fighters just hanging out. And it would be one thing if they were Star Warsified, but no, I know these fighters. That's Taki. How did she get to this future place? And I know the first words ever in Star Wars are a long time ago, but you know what I mean. This is not criticism, by the way. I love how unique this stage feels for these characters. It's like when I create a character in these games for a modern character. You can even get a ring out here to recreate the various scenes from the series where characters get thrown down the abyss. And to add to the surrealness of seeing the Soul Calibur characters fight here, you have music right from the movies playing. I'd love to show you, but it's the Imperial March. That's like the second most popular track from the series, and Disney loves its copyright. So just enjoy the visuals.
You feel the power of the dark side.
Just got one honorable mention, being the geothermal power plant in Dead or Alive Dimensions. This was a 3DS exclusive Dead or Alive game, which I have no way to capture or record, but I still wanted to shout it out since it's a Metroid stage in a Dead or Alive game. Since Dead or Alive was on a Nintendo system for once, they got an exclusive stage. The stage is based on an area in Metroid the Other M, but it also does its own thing. You got Ridley in the background, and if you speak into the mic of the 3DS, Samus might appear. Cool little stage, wish it got to be on consoles, and of course, this gives us fuel to ask for Samus in a Dead or Alive game, if we're ever getting one again. For number 1, it's the stage I felt had the most going on. It's not super crazy or out of place, but it fits and gives me my money's worth. Number 1, Howard Estate in Tekken 7. Tekken had guest characters all over the place, with odd ones like Negan or the Final Fantasy guy, and incredibly fitting ones like Akuma who even made it into the story. But one guest who was almost under the radar in Tekken 7 was from a fellow fighting game, Fatal Fury's final boss, Geese Howard. It was definitely hype when he was announced and released, but Akuma overshadowed him a bit with his story presence, and the other guests had a what the hell factor to them. But for me, Geese was my favorite guest in the game. I went over it in my best guest video, but in short, fitting moveset, awesome character design, and it was good to see a Fatal Fury guest besides Terry Bogard, who is still also great. However, the stage that came with him is just as great of a DLC inclusion. Like Akuma's stage, it was not a one-for-one copy of any stage from his game of origin, but it has the same vibes. His boss stages in Fatal Fury were always in some wealthy tower on the top floor, with a mix of Japanese paraphernalia like armor and statues of samurai since he loved Japanese culture, but also things to remind you that he's still American, mainly the flags around. Stuff like the war armor and flags make a return in the Tekken 7 stage, but now we have a third dimension and more advanced graphics, so we have even more armor, more traditional weapons, more statues, dragons, and fire, which was also in the original stage, but the lighting is a lot more dramatic now. He also has these nice shoji sliding doors, which lead to the next thing I like about this stage. It's not just one room. You can hit the opponent through these doors to expand the room, revealing a bit more of what we already saw, but we also have a balcony now. We already had a nice view of the outside with his big ol' windows, but this enhances it. In fact, we're not done with this stage's size, since there's yet another expansion related to that balcony. You can knock the opponent through it and they'll land outside, which is full of cherry blossoms and other wooden adornments, and more statues. It's a small drop to the outside floor, but I like to think that this is a reference to when you defeat him in Fatal Fury, and he almost gets knocked off the top of his tower, but slaps away Terry's hand because he refuses to be rescued by a dude he hates and would rather die. This is like the coolest any fighting game final boss has ever looked. The Cherry Blossom Garden is also a new thing for Geese that wasn't in the Fatal Fury games, since this estate is actually in Japan in the Tekken universe. All his Fatal Fury stages are in the fictional USA location of Southtown, so in Tekken lore, he just set up shop abroad because he loves Japan. Overall, this stage gives us so much to look at, and pays respect to one of fighting game's most prolific bosses, so Howard Estate is my top guest character stage in fighting games. Now, what did you think? Were all these as fitting or as odd as their corresponding guest, or were there other stages that represent their guests even better? And what are some of your favorite fighting game guest stages, whether I discussed them or not? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.